Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be going over counter heroes and counter items, but mostly counter heroes to some of the top meta heroes of the current patch. I have 5 heroes here. We're going to be talking about Lone Druid and how to counter Lone Druid. Pretty unpopular hero, but one of the best of the patch, and a hero I think will continue to rise in popularity if the strength stays the same. Then we have Slardar, one of the more popular heroes and one of the more dominant heroes. Necrophos, a hero that got nerfed recently but is still very powerful and is the 8th most popular hero in Dota. Spectre, I don't feel like I have to say too much about Spectre. And finally Treant, a hero that's been nerfed, which still stands the test of time and remains one of the best supports in all of Dota right now, and I think will continue to, especially as the Zoo meta rises. He's pretty good about dealing with these units with overgrowth and defending towers, at least to some extent, and let's get into it. Alright, before we get into the main part of the video, I do want to let you guys know that I'm not only posting videos here on YouTube, I also frequently post videos on the website. If you don't know what I'm talking about, almost every single day I'm posting a new video to the Game League website. We're going to teach you guys in depth about how to get to the next level. So if you want to become absolutely broken, click the link down below and sign up. Alright, so starting off with Lone Druid, the first thing I want to say is actually not an item or a hero, which I know is kind of weird considering I said that's going to be the focus of the video, but I do want to say that the main way, in my opinion, to counter this hero is chain ganks. Okay, in the early game, especially previous to this hero's level 6, it's extremely bad at defending itself against high-level mid heroes. And so if you're a mid player, or if you happen to be a support who can smoke the mid players, please pick on Lone Druid. If you pick on Lone Druid, it will grief his game, because if you kill him once, well, it slows down his farm, fine. If you kill him twice, he just has no bear. And even when you kill him the first time, it makes him have to be a little bit careful about playing aggressive, right? He has to be a lot more defensive, because then if he dies, his game is in a horrible position. He just has no bear for like 60 seconds, you know, and it's terrible, right? It super griefs his game. So the hero's bad at defending himself and particularly gets punished by dying twice in a row. So if you can make this happen, I think it's the best way to deal with this hero and is definitely something to keep in mind. All right, now let's get into some of the heroes. So if you're an average pub player, I think one of the best is definitely Sand King. I think the reason why Sand King is up there is not because Sand King's particularly good at killing Lone Druid, but it's good at dealing with Lone Druid in the mid to late game. And here's why. Well, it's the Ags. The Ags shooting out these burrow strikes basically allows you to control Lone Druid. Lone Druid never wants to buy BKB and practically never does. And so if you don't know what Ags on Sand King does, basically when he clicks Sandstorm and shoots out many burrow strikes, it's guaranteed to stun the bear for like 6 seconds. If he doesn't get out of it. Now, honestly, I think Lone Druid has some upsides against Sand King. I think the upsides is Savage Roar can push Sand King out of the Sandstorm, so you have to be very careful about that. And the burst damage from Sand King isn't necessarily reliable at killing Lone Druid. However, something I will say about countering Lone Druid is I recently played against Legion Commander, and if you get your ulti off, Lone Druid is a hard counter Legion because she just can never burst you and the bear heals you while you're dueled. However, the reason why the matchup is finicky is because if you get dueled as the main hero and you don't get your ulti off, you can't fear away the Legion and you might just get bursted, right? And with Sand King, the burst damage from Epicenter and the burst damage and stun from Burrow Strike has a similar effect. Obviously, I think Duel is way better lockdown for Lone Druid because she can't get feared out of it, and it silences the LT, but the stun is not bad as well, right? The stun from Sand King and the burst damage from Sand King, as well as the follow-up from Axe and the control from the Axe is pretty good. Then we have Warlock. Funny enough, I was picking LD as somewhat of a response to Warlock for a period of time, but I think it's partially because I have very good understanding of Lone Druid, and that allows me to do that. I'm not trying to just like flex as a part of the video, but let me quickly talk about why LD is okay against Warlock. Eventually, when you buy your shard, it dispels you. This means you're going to dispel Fatal Bonds, and that helps really deal with the Warlock basically kind of like feasting off a good Fatal Bond set on your bear. Right, you have an answer to this, and that is nice, I will admit it. If this didn't exist, I think Warlock would be extremely good against Lone Druid. But in the laning stage, honestly, not a lot of heroes can pressure LD, but in the early levels, Fatal Bonds is so good. If you can attach it to the bear and the hero, it's so strong and creates a lot of issues for LD early on. Like, it can pressure him. Before he gets that Spirit Link, it really does kick him out of lane and makes him uncomfortable. Something most heroes just can't really do to Lone Druid. So I think, yeah, the level 1 and kind of the level 2 are good. And then Upheaval is a real problem for Lone Druid. Lone Druid doesn't want to skill Savage Roar against Warlock, and honestly, I think the good Lone Druids will. Once again, this matchup's finicky because, yeah, you have a cancel for Upheaval, right? However, most Lone Druids just won't skill it. It's like Necrophos is not skilling Ghost Shroud, right? They just did, even if they should take it, they just don't. They're like, nope, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it. So yeah, the Upheaval is just good because you can't dispel it with the shard. The bear just gets stuck. The movement speed is complete AIDS because once again, you don't buy BKB, and so you just get stuck, right? This is a hero that can't deal and hates dealing with upheaval. It's absolutely atrocious. And if the Lone Druid does not prioritize the shard and buys it way too late, Fatal Bonds throughout the game will absolutely annihilate Lone Druid and anyone who gets attached to him. So yeah, this matchup is very good for that reason. Then we have Bristleback. Funny enough, this is a hero that super fell off after the recent patch due to the heavy nerfs. But I think if there's any reason why Bristleback will see any play, is because I think it's good against Lone Druid. Like, honestly, it's just one of the heroes that can actually deal with LD. I do think there's a timing in minute 25 where LD gets a bajillion armor with the Wraithband spam, and that makes it very hard for physical damage heroes to kill LD, and this is where Bristle can fall off. Also, once again, LD has the Dispel with a shard, but the Ags on Bristle is one of the best ways of killing a Lone Druid. It's also, and bursting him, right? Bursting him before he gets his ulti off, and also just clicking the bear. And then honestly, Lone Druid just has a really, really hard time killing Bristle. Yeah, you might be like, oh, but you have Mana Drain, you have Diffusal. But if you're going the natural Ags Bloodstone build, this tends to not really be much of a problem. And you like super heal, considering your Ags is likely going to hit the bear and the hero. You're just going to heal for like a billion. And then the shard allows you to slow the bear on now a 13-second cooldown, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a one hero that the quill spam pushes in the wave against Lone Druid. You rush a Vanguard so you can sort of not die to the guy. Yes, Diffusal is a bit of a problem for you, but at least you won't die and you can kind of turn your back and farm the defensive camps. However, I'm very specifically saying I think safe lane Bristle is good against Lone Druid. I think it has some things going for it. Basically, I've played this matchup a lot and I don't like it. So it's something to keep in mind. Finally, the last two are supports. We have Grimstroke because Soulbind attaches the hero to the bear, makes it very hard to move, or the bear to anything else. The bear can get linked and it can very much get stuck and can't dispel with the shard, so that's really nice. You can't dispel Phantom's Embrace with the shard, so it's a very good way of killing Lone Druid is with the Phantom's Embrace. It's very powerful. Yes, the bear can hit it, and that's a bit of a problem, but it's nice. And then you have Inkswell, so you have a silence and a stun. You have Chain Stun. Very good against Lone Druid, right? I will say, obviously, Lone Druid, the Savage Roar against Inkswell is pretty nice because you can push away who gets swelled. But if the Grimstroke's on his game, he can just instantly cancel the Roar with the Inkswell, and that's kind of nice. And finally is Treant. It's just because you give armor, you defend towers, Overgrowth. Yes, Overgrowth and Leech Seed can be dispelled by the shard, but once again, I really emphasize the shard because in some of these matchups, it kind of is what sways it in the favor of Lone Druid in some regard, but most players just forget and don't use it well enough with the level 15 Savage Roar cooldown. Okay, next up, let's talk about Slaughter and how to counter out Slaughter. Slaughter is one of the most dominant heroes of the meta right now just because it's received buff after buff after buff, and I would say a lot of the heroes that kind of counter Slaughter have been nerfed, such as Chaos Knight and Bristleback. But alright, let's get into some of the counters. First off, we have Witch Doctor, which is kind of weird because Witch Doctor's armor absolutely sucks, so you'd be like, but Witch Doctor Shard is really good. If Slaughter goes on you, you're one of the best heroes at defending yourself against him because the shard puts you in the ground and does pure damage, and Slaughter hates pure damage because he can't abuse his Ags or just the river bonus armor to tank through it. Also, Maledict is obviously naturally very good against Slaughter. It's just a tanky hero that tends not to get a super early BKB, and even if he does buy BKB, you can still apply the Maledict to him, and when the BKB ends, it becomes a real problem for the hero. But mostly what makes Witch Doctor good against Slaughter is the Death Ward. It just does pure damage, and so no matter what the point in the game is, if Slaughter has like Ags or he gets really tanky, I think it's mostly the Ags nowadays, like even if he gets Ags, it gives him a billion armor and status resist, but Witch Doctor doesn't care. Maledict and Death Ward just don't care about these things, right? It's just pure damage and gives you the ability to kill a very tanky Slaughter no matter the game state. Then we have Lone Druid. Lone Druid, top meta hero, very high armor hero. Once the game hits minute 25, you should have purchased 5 to 6 Wraith Bands. Okay, more like 4 to 5 Wraith Bands. And this is going to make your bear have like 30 armor and your hero have like 35 armor to 40 armor. This makes it very hard for Slaughter to deal with you. You know what Slaughter also doesn't like? Mana burn. However, something like Animage can't really get on top and hit the Slaughter very comfortably. Lone Druid doesn't care. Amp the bear, as long as you have the Wraith Bands as I'm talking about and the stat items, you'll have the armor to deal with it. You can man up and the Diffusal just makes Slaughter very uncomfortable. Right, the Diffusal is very good at locking him down as well in the early game, and Lone Druid's ulti gives armor too. So basically, it's just armor, armor, armor. Minute 25, you spam the Wraith Bands, and then you burn Slaughter's mana in the team fights. Even if you can't kill him, like you do have 2 roots with the ulti and the bear just rooting. But yeah, even if you can't kill him, you just grieve his mana pool, and it's a real problem for Slaughter. The hero doesn't function without mana like most Dota heroes. Then we have Meepo. This is kind of a weird one, but it's sort of similar to Lone Druid in a lot of ways. It has a lot of lockdown in the chain nets that's very good at controlling a very slippery Slaughter. You might be like, oh, but Slaughter has an AoE stun. Yeah, but it's a 0.8 second stun. Yeah, it slows after, but it's such a short stun, and the root from Meepo is 2 seconds, and the stun is 0.8, so usually you can chain net even if he stuns you, you know? So you can keep Slaughter locked down. Slaughter can never really man up to Meepo. Yes, the Ags is decent because he gives you a ton of armor and gives you status resist, but even then, Meepo mans up to Slaughter very well, right? Because Meepo has such high armor. The Mega Meepo is also very good at dealing with Slaughter because Slaughter just doesn't kill these extremely high HP heroes. Just not the nature of Slaughter, especially nowadays and with how people build them. And so yeah, I think Meepo, it's a very niche hero, but it is a Slaughter counter, and I wanted to put it because I think most of what Meepo does is very good against Slaughter. And then finally is Kunkka. I do have an item I'd like to mention too, but yeah, we have Kunkka. Why? Well, I think Slaughter doesn't buy very early BKB most of the time nowadays. He can, but then it kind of feels bad. I feel like early BKB on Slaughter is just sad when you have to buy it, you know? I don't know, it doesn't feel that good. It's not the way you want to play the hero. The Ags just feels way better if you can get away with it. And yeah, I mean, Kunkka is just the lockdown. Like, these heroes that have this very extended lockdown are kind of nice against Slaughter. But Kunkka is also a hero that can go in and lock down the Slaughter and not die. It's sort of the theme with the Lone Druid and the Meepo as well, where it's like they have this pretty extended lockdown in the Diffusal and the Root, Meepo just a billion nets, and then Kunkka, they can all walk up and have good armor based on the items they're buying, the neutral items they're taking, and frontline and lock them down for an extended period of time and not die. And then finally, the last item I want to mention is Pavis. I think Pavis is incredibly good against Slaughter. Just in the early game, it makes it honestly near impossible for Slaughter to kill you as a support or your teammate. 300 physical block against the hero that just does all physical damage creates real problems for him. It also gives you armor, a little bit of mana regen, and health. And so yeah, the 16-second cooldown on Pavis is just nice against Slaughter, and is definitely, if you're against him and you're afraid he's going to run at you as a support, in the early game, it will give you the survivability always to get your spells off. Alright, now we have Necrophos. Let's talk about how to counter Necrophos. The first hero is Carry Muerta. This is really simple. It's just because you can shoot him when he Ghost Shrouds with your ulti. On top of that, you have a silence and a lot of magic damage and the dead shot and the calling. But yeah, the constant and chain silence is very good. It also counters the Yules build that some Necros will go to deal with other silences, because even if Necro gets silenced and Yuleses against Muerta, he'll just land in another silence and it feels terrible. Then we have AA. It's just anti-healing and amped magic damage. There's nothing to say. This matchup's always been good. Heroes also that have high range and don't get affected by Heartstopper are good, such as, well, the AA and the Muerta. Then we have Lone Druid. I know, I don't want to put this hero everywhere. Trust me, this is the last time I'll talk about him. But yeah, it seems weird because it's like a high HP melee hero. But the problem is the bear has inherent magic resist. I think it's 35%. And then the hero just doesn't die to Necro because, well, Necro has to chip you down and then ult you. You might be like, oh, it's good at bursting, Lone Druid. But the problem is the cast range of Scythe isn't that good. It's not like Necro tends to buy Blink or like make that type of play. So the bear goes in, it forces out an early Ghost Shroud because Necro's armor is trash. And then you just can't really kill the bear. And you can't really kill the hero because he's too tanky and heals. The bear heals him. And I've played this matchup a bunch, and I always felt like the Necro should make sense and maybe be good. You can even scythe the bear, funny enough. But it just doesn't really play out that way. It's just too easy to force the Ghost Shroud and go in and not feel bad about committing. Like a lot of these tanky melee heroes, if they try to poke the Ghost Shroud, often overcommit and die. But Lone Druid it's too Chad of a hero right now. And then finally is Dazzle. I'm talking mostly about Dazzle Core, even though support Dazzle's decent. The reason why I like Dazzle Core is it's just way too much healing for Necro. Necro gets in the faces of your teammate, and when you buy Ags on Dazzle, if there's an enemy next to your teammate, it just heals them by 150% extra. It's insane, and it's like so much healing, and so the Dazzle always takes advantage of Necro's positioning. The Grave against Scythe is obviously good, right? Necro very much relies on bursting heroes at a certain point of the game. And as a result, if you can Grave the Scythe, which it's pretty easy to do because the Scythe has this mega windup, you're countering it, right? It's very easy to counter him. So you have heals to deal with the constant chip damage of Necro. You are a good laner. I think Dazzle, whether or not it's 5 Dazzle or mid Dazzle against the mid Necro, is a good laner against Necro. It's a hero that can actually deal with him. So yeah, I just think that everything going for Dazzle is good against Necro. Oh, and yeah, you have minus armor too, which is very good against Necro. All right, next up, let's talk about Spectre and how to counter Spectre. The first hero is a very meta hero right now, which is Lycan. Lycan isn't necessarily good at killing Spectre as the game progresses, because Spectre buys armor and then mischance and then stats, and then Manta. Like, you're very bad at killing Spectre if the game goes late, and I don't think you're good against Spectre if the game goes late, because, like, Spectre has, as I said, good armor and can just kill your backline, and you can't really do anything about it. However, it's the general tempo. Spectre is horrible against Lycan in lane because it doesn't pressure Lycan, and Lycan should easily deny him. Spectre's damage is horrible. Spectre's ability to secure creeps with spells is horrible because his Q is way too much mana. So Lycan should win the lane, which Lycan tends not to do. Lycan should win the lane strictly based on CS. Once he has Helm of Iron Will, Spectre can never touch him. So you kick the Spectre out of lane, you take his tower, then you kill his mid, and then you take all of his tier 1s, and the map quickly collapses. and then you take over the early game so hard, and it makes it very hard for Spectre to get Shadow Step kills because you tend to be dominating the early game so hard due to the fact that you're winning the lane. I don't think you're a direct counter to Spectre, but the game plan and the tempo of the game and your ability to stop Spectre from getting a lot of level 6 kills due to the tempo that you're applying and the power of your early game fight is very good. Then we have Treant and Undying. These are two supports that are tanky and just don't die to Spectre. It's basically heroes that don't instantly die to Spectre jumps and can then push him away and chip him down and kill him through dispersion are good. Treant isn't necessarily that. It's mostly just the ability to defend yourself. You can root Spectre if he goes on you. If he tries to kill you with Manta, you click Overgrowth. You heal your teammates who get gone on, you Overgrowth and save teammates that get gone on. Then we have Undying, as I was saying. It's just because you're tanky, you don't get bursted by Spectre. The Tombstone Spectre cannot kill. He has a horrible time killing it. He cannot kill you through Flesh Golem, and you can slow him and amp damage, which helps you kill Spectre through Dispersion. And then Decay is just a direct counter to Spectre. Any of these like HP loss abilities, I guess like Essence Shift, but Slark's not good against Spectre, but something like Essence Shift would also be good because it basically kills you through the dispersion. You lower the HP pool, so the dispersion and the Blade Mail, and even, well, I guess Radiance, but mostly the dispersion and the Blade Mail have less HP to work with. And the dispersion, it doesn't do like extra damage when you just reduce his health. So yeah, Decay is extremely good. You don't get bursted and you can't kill Tombstone. Then we have Viper. You win the lane and you break the guy. Necrophos, you win the lane and then you burst the guy and you don't die to him. And finally, the last hero to talk about is Treant Protector. Treant Protector 5, been nerfed a ton, but it's still very strong, so let's talk about a couple of the heroes that are good against Treant. So the magic damage supports are the main heroes I love against Treant. First off, we have Pugna. The laning stage is very easy. If Treant tries to close the gap and Leech Seed, Nature's Grasp, Blood Grenade your offlaner, or you Decrep, and then it actually buys a lot of time to allow them to get out of these slows and kite. So I think that's incredible. You also just trade naturally well with Treant. Also, you know what's good against Treant? Taking towers with magic damage. Something basically no one can do except for Pugna. So Pugna can take all the towers through the Treant heal because you don't do physical to the towers, and Treant doesn't heal the towers for that much. He kind of just puts armor on them for the most part. In the early game, the heal is underwhelming. Pugna does not care, so it wins the lane against Treant. It's one of the better laners against Treant because of the Decrep response and just hitting him from a bajillion range and high movement speed. Treant can't close the gap. You take his towers, and then in the mid game, if someone gets rooted, you can Decrep him. If you get rooted, you can Decrep. It's not a stun, right? You can always get off Decrep, Glimmer, Force, whatever it is, right? The items that Pugna likes to buy. And then finally, if someone gets armored and you're trying to burst them, well, you're all magic damage, so it's good. Then we have Gyro, and Gyro is kind of similar, but it's mostly honestly that you just do a bajillion magic damage. And in lane, like you can pick Gyro 4 or Gyro 5, both are good. But in lane, you can track Treant through the trees with the homing missile. If he tries to man up to you, Rocket Barrage does way too much damage to melee heroes. And then yeah, throughout the game, putting homing missile on Treant is extremely good, because typically he kites through the trees and plays around like healing himself with the Leech Seed and just taking these long fights. But with homing missile and the shard, you actually can stay on top of him, track him, and burst him. Even when he eventually gets to his minute 15 shard timing where Treant can go invis, you still can track him with the homing missile and do obscene amounts of magic damage, two things that are very good against Treant. And finally is Jakiro. Funny enough, another hero that can do magic damage to towers, another hero that mans up well to melee heroes that try to trade. Treant hits very hard, but with the attack speed slows of Liquid Fire and Dual Breath, you can't really hit Jakiro. It's very, very difficult. So you take Treant's towers. I actually think the build you should go against Treant is max E, max Liquid Fire, so you can actually pressure the towers when you hit that level 8, because you should be 2-1-4-1, right? That should be the build. You can take his towers, you do a ton of magic damage to whoever he tries to save, you can catch him in the tree line with the Ice Path, you can do damage to him in the tree line with Macro Pyre and Dual Breath. You have so many answers to Treant. It's just like a very clean and natural matchup. But alright, that's going to be all for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel as it helps us. We're trying to post here every single day, so your support makes all the difference. And I put a lot of effort into these counter videos and top meta videos where I'm like talking about a billion different things. If you could smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, it would mean a lot. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace!
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the Game Leap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.